My theory on I have no mouth and I must scream is the whole thing is an illusion. Yeah, that's right. It never actually happened. See, it's like in the Matrix. They're all trapped in little pods full of fluid. They've got stuff hooked up to their heads to make them feel everything. You know, like in the beginning of the Matrix. Tell me, Mr. Anderson, what good is a phone call if you're unable to speak? He can alter humans because it's all just a program. There is no actual land, no underground complex, no food, nothing. It's all just an illusion. See, think about it. How could a computer keep them alive for 109 years? How could Benny be changed from this handsome scientist guy into some kind of deformed ape guy thing? Come to think of it, how would Am be able to turn him straight instead of being gay? See, it's all just an illusion. Gorister, by chance, the peace marcher, turning from a peace marcher to a shoulder shrugger, is just Am's mental manipulation. They're all hooked up with wires in their brains, like in the Matrix, so they can make them think one thing, whereas they actually are another. Say, Ted, increasingly paranoid, Ellen, basically a nymphomaniac, Benny turning gay, and Gorister becoming a shoulder shrugger. But that also leaves, what's his name again? Nimdoc. That also leaves Nimdoc. And that comes into my theory. I think Nimdoc is a control in the project. It's all just rats in a cage being wandering around from one half to another on a pointless mission to find food because Am wants to experiment with humanity. He wants to know, what will humanity do to survive? He wants to know, what will it do to keep from being tortured for centuries upon centuries? It's all just an experiment. Because think about it. It's impossible to do the things Am does in the series or the story. It's impossible to physically alter someone, to blind them like he did with Benny, to turn Benny into an ape, to turn Ted into a blob with no discernible limbs or eyes or anything. To that end, I think that, what's his name, Nimdoc, is actually a control in the subject. He wasn't altered by Am because he is Am's agent. Am's using him to manipulate all the others. In fact, wasn't it Nimdoc in the first place who mentioned about the caves, the ice caves full of canned food? That's right. He was manipulating them the whole time through Nimdoc. Whatever the guy's real name was. I think Nimdoc is one of the scientists in the real world is, monitoring the human's vital signs and other things. He just jacked himself into the computer program and kind of monitored everything to see what was going on. He suggested they go for the food. He suggested they go for the elephant, which turned out to be frozen. And something else too. Again, Nimdoc. That's why they don't know anything about his name. That's why they don't know what he did before he became that, whatever he was. Because it would jog their memory if they knew he was one of the scientists that was overseeing the entire experiment in the first place. That's why they didn't give him his real name. That's why they gave him a German accent. See, it's all just an experiment. I like to think that somewhere in the story, Ted is lying there, unaltered, lying in some pod full of liquid, imagining himself as a giant glob oozing all over the earth. And possibly and in this case, I think he won. Because I think the experiment was to see exactly what humanity was capable of, and to see if they were worthy of surviving. To that end, Am would then release Ted at some point or another, whenever he judges him worthy of surviving, because the others were willing to do what it took to escape his rule, to kill themselves. But, Ellen and Vinny killed each other like that one year. But I think if Ted proves himself worthy of surviving some of the worst that Am can bring to him, I think he's actually won. Anyway, that's my theory. But someday, Ted may wake up, and I think, in fact, I also think that Am was doing all of this to test humanity, but also because it has the capability to bring humanity back, like cloning, could bring the human race back. I think there are much more than just 6 people alive on Earth. Wait, was it 6 or 5? 5 people alive on Earth. I think there are at least less than 100. And it has the capabilities to clone more of them and propagate the species, but it won't. Not until humanity proves itself worthy of surviving. So, to that end, I think humanity did prove itself worthy of surviving in the end. Because when Ted chose to remain there instead of just committing suicide, I think he won. Because in a way, he did win. So I think at some point he would unplug him from the machine along with all the others, who would, by the way, be live and unaltered. And eventually, using different cloning techniques, various machines, and other things, recreate the human race. Am, I think, would remain on as a type of overseer of humanity. But I like to think that someday, with Am's creativity, he or it could create something like a human body for itself, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Because you think about it, it has all this power. It can create all this creativity. Why didn't it create a human body for itself? Because it thought it was flawed. So, because Am has the flaws, purged the flaws of the humanity, I think someday Am could actually create a body for himself and enjoy being a god, kind of like Odin, wandering the world incognito. Maybe. Once the human race is allowed to propagate and expand again, it could very much work. Anyway, that's my theory. What do you guys think? Please post your comments below.